Recording.
Yeah, so perfect for impromptu giving a presentation. Really cool. It felt so far.
Okay. Hello, my name is Roman. I'm from Ukraine. I work for a company called Lemberg Solutions. Basically, my role at company is head of web development, but my main focus is Drupal. Also, Daniel asked to share a story of getting here. Yeah, so like months ago, 2 months ago, we decided that we need to go to more camps or places as a company, because usually we attend bigger events like Drupal Europe, DrupalCons, and like local events in Ukraine, obviously. And then we looked at the Drupal, right? It's a website with all that. Website is where you can find all the camps, event meetups around the world, and there were like 3 options actually for this fall: Oslo, I think, Ghent, and Thunder Days. And so Thunder Days was not an option for us because we do not have like commercial experience with that, only some internal demo projects. And there was like Oslo or Ghent, and we were looking at the website. Both are websites, and I don't know, Oslo was like much better. I don't know, it was a feeling that Oslo is like better event, and I don't know why. So Ghent should work on their website. So yeah, that was the story, and actually, like we never planned. I never planned to do this presentation. But on Thursday we gathered like for a beer, for a dinner, and Daniel also said like, okay, maybe you have something to say. And and this presentation is, I actually presented it once in Ukraine and once in Drupalathon in Hungary, like 2 years ago, I guess. But it's not technical, so it does not expire actually. And all the slides are in English already, so yeah, so why not? So sorry if I forgot some text, and we'll be reading some from the screen. And yeah, I think let's start. So I already said that, so I'm 9+ years with Drupal. I think next spring will be my 10 years anniversary with Drupal. I work for Lemberg. It's like we are 100 people in total, but Drupal is 23 probably, 22, 23 people. Like I'm head of Drupal department, and like my here's my responsibilities, and like I would like to talk about like my involvement in human resources and team building. As I said, this is not about like some technical side of things. It's not about like project manager. It's not about tools or software. It's even not very Drupal specific. I think it's also can be applied not for a Drupal company or not for a Drupal department if you're a bigger company. It's about people, how we manage it, how we try to be a like nice place to work. Also some background like for Ukraine. Ukrainian developers market is super high competitive. We have big player. I'm not talking about like Drupal, but in general. So, for example, the top 4, we have top 3 big companies in Ukraine. They are each of them is 4,000 people plus. So they're like probably pretty big. And total amount is we have around 175,000 developers in Ukraine. And there are a lot of demand on the market. It's actually very hard to find good developers because demand is higher, and there are like some problems that, for example, there are high demand on salaries, for example. So yeah, you need to find right people for the like right price basically that fits your company. So here's how we do it. That the first step is like recruitment. And probably, as I said, this presentation is more for developers basically, or like team leads. And could be a question like, why should a team lead care a lot on this? As if like most companies have some human resources department, or they maybe have outsource this to like third-party companies that hires people for them. Answer I think is obvious, because you then will be working with those people. So yeah, so you should be involved. We have this process. We have there are 4 steps. First, like pre-screening and screening. Then we do human resources / technical interview. Usually it's like single interview, but it's split into phases. Then we give a personal test task, and then we do a cultural interview. For pre-screening and screening, it's done by the recruiter. So basically, developers are not involved in that process, and it's like first line of defense. So we try to filter out everyone who does not fit culture at the beginning, whose requirements for example, for salary or for other things are not in the range of what we can offer at the moment, and when the skill set is not also not fit the position. So our recruiters can do it by themselves. So developers are usually not involved in that process. Then we have like shortlist basically with candidates, and we move to human resource and technical interviews. For technical part, how we do it? We created, we have like questionnaire template basically. It's a Google Docs with, I don't know, 50 questions. First of them, I think that every company should have own list of questions and not Google for them. So you can Google for examples, but not just copy paste the entire list, because each company has own technologies, own approaches, and basically fields, even in Drupal. So for example, if you do a lot of e-commerce, then probably you can't ask more e-commerce related questions. If you do Thunder, for example, or Lightning, you can ask questions about those, etc. We split questions on like general, like PHP, Drupal, JS, HTML, CSS categories, and also they are of different complexity levels. So also I like to ask at least one like tricky logical questions about something for like checking the general knowledge and how people can think like out of the box. Just think about the idea. For example, I can ask a question about why the sky is a blue color. So, for example, and we try with the candidate to find the answer by, looking into why it's blue. Then one thing that usually you should not put that knowledge about how to ask questions and focus only in one hand. So you need to share this questionnaire and educate the team. So like everyone, or like not everyone, because usually like junior developers cannot do it because lack of experience. But so at least half of your team can do that interview. So you are not blocked by availability, and you can have different opinions, and different persons on the team can do that interview. We all do notes. So there is like questionnaire also. Like on the left side the questions, on the right side we take notes about the answers. So then we can review how good was that answers. And one of the most important, as I said, we have like around 50 questions there. We do not ask all the questions ever. So you start and you feel if the candidate cannot answer medium questions, that's no point to ask all the complex ones. And the same is true if you start and see that someone is very good. You should not like bomb with all obvious simple questions, because just don't waste your time and the candidate time, because so then we fill the document. So that's the second step of the interview. Then we try to give a test task. Also, basically the approach here is the same. So we have like test task. Good to have multiple options, so you can combine and actually give a unique set of tasks for each candidate, because we had the same for a couple of years, and after I think 2 or 3 years there was situations that someone already knew, like from his friends or whatever, what will be the task, and yeah, it was like a little bit of cheating. Tasks should be very well prepared. You need to make them as clear as possible. I think the task should be like even better than a usual task that you do during your work, because you want to check how person can develop it, and if there is some ambiguity, then you will have this conversation, discussion, like, oh, it should be like that, no, it should be like that, and it's not helping. We try to keep it relatively simple, so it has some easier than medium and one like bigger task. We do not want candidates to do like to spend a lot of time, so it's a couple hours of work. So I think one working day for a person who really wants to get the job should be fine. Also, we have a task. We have a spreadsheet, and each task has a weight from 1 to 3. Like 1 is easy and 3 is hard. Then we have for each task there is acceptance criteria. What we need to check. So also everyone from the team, or half of the team, can easily check that test task, and then you can set like grades from 0 to 5. 0 is not implemented, and 5 is like perfect. And we have a pass rate like 75-80%. It depends. Also, we shared that documents with the entire team, and so a lot of people can actually do that. And for test tasks, we usually share this. At least 2 developers should review those. So we have different opinions, because it's software development. You can, especially in Drupal, you can achieve the same in 2, 3, 5 ways. So we don't want to be opinionated very much. So we give that each test task to a couple developers for review, and then we calculate average, and that's considered a pass. This is considered a test task score. And the last one, so for example, if we are task was successful, interviews were successful, we do a cultural interview. For example, for everything before, it can be remote, for example. So like someone cannot go to our office because they are too busy, they have current job and they just thinking to switching your jobs, or they could be some remote persons that are willing to move to our city, but they not want to go back and forth just for our interview. But this cultural we do in office. By the way, we have everyone in office, so we can only have 2 persons working remotely. So yeah, we prefer developers to work in the office. So the last step is cultural interview. It's basically the last line of defense, and we also encourage everyone not to skip it. It allows us to see some different how a candidate behaves in different situations. So we invite a candidate to our office. We invite several team members, like 4 or 5. Ideally, there should be various roles within the company. So like QA engineers, developers, project managers. And then it's half an hour probably. And then we just talk about so we sit together and just we do not talk about, it's not an interview, we do not check that skill set. We more check how person behaves. Sometimes we try to push and create sort of conflict to see how a person handles that, and then after the meeting we sit with the team and discuss feedback, And basically on this discussion we usually make a choice whether to do an offer or not. That gives us, I think, like when we introduced the system, I think 4 or 5 years ago, and after that, I would say like we only once failed it. So like person slips through all that filters, but then we were not happy of the performance of the like cultural, this also side of things. But usually it works pretty well, and we are happy of the like our new employees that were successful in that process. So it was about recruitment. Also, important things that we do one-on-one meetings. One-on-one meetings can be like done should be done by some like senior, trusted person who has a like internal respect. In the company. What is that? It's a short private meetings with each team member. So as I said, we have like Drupal team. Also we have Laravel. We do also Android, iOS, and other stuff. So each team has a team leader. And yeah, this team leader is responsible for this. These meetings are short and they help to discover some hidden issues, some conflicts that maybe you do not see in your daily routines, but then people can talk to you like privately. Also, it helps to set up a like personal development process. Usually, people have something to say, and when they are saying it, they become like a little bit happier, and overall that helps to create a stable and friendly team. One example, for example. Example was one developer, he was tired of actual project and got actually an offer from different company, and he was not saying anyone till the very last. But we had this meeting set up, and he was like, I know, honestly, I actually thinking about moving. I am going to interviews, and that's it. And we knew that we need to replace the developer actually before any decisions were made. So we were able to act early on this risk for the project he was assigned. So yeah, what is the format? They should be short and like around 15 minutes max, so it's not something very long. They should be regularly because when you start, for example, people won't be sharing a lot and will be it's like, what's happening? I don't know, nothing, all good, I'm fine. But for example, in like on the third or fourth meeting, it will become better and better, and people start, okay, you know, that project I'm working in, I'm not happy really, I want to switch or whatever, and then it should be very private. So the person shares something with me, and also I share some feedback on that person as well. So it's two-way road. It's not like I'm only listening. Then I do not, for example, if it's a complaint on someone else, like I don't like work with this guy because of this and that, I accept those, and then probably I check if it's something that is really happening. And for example, then with that other person, I do not say like, hey, you know that guy, he complained about you, and like, it's, you know, I hide the personality of the complainer, and just I think that there were complaints about this and that. What do you think about it? And you know, also there should be no forbidden topics. So you need to build the trust, and so people can tell you about anything that is happening, that anything that could affect their performance, for example, or their mental state, whatever. For each, then like in the beginning of each meeting, for each person we have like also document where we write some notes about what's going on each meeting, and then the first thing that we do is that we check items from the last one. So if there were any issues, whether they were resolved or not, and etc. Then you need to listen to the teammate and note only like issues, and then you need to also provide your feedback about the last 2 weeks. And very important, so it's not a negative meeting, you also need to provide a positive feedback. Say, hey, the last 2 weeks, wow, score, man, it was pretty good, you did that and that, where everyone was helpful. So if you have something to have something to say positive, do it. If you have something negative, do it. So it should be fair, and also it will help build trust, and person will be able to share also their points, their issues, their happiness, open. As I said, you need to have these notes for each meeting, and then you add action items for the next period, next 2 weeks or next month. So, for example, if there are issues, so like I will check what's going on there. Then on the next meetings, you need to try to resolve it in between those meetings. And yeah, and also this is a great format for like personal development. So you also can assign some, for example, please please take this React beginner course, first 2 chapters. Let's check in 2 weeks what's going on. I would say it's quite successful for us, and makes a developer like trust company, and they feel that they are like cared of. And the other thing that everybody knows that not each project are like brand new Drupal 8 super cool. Sometimes it's some old Drupal 7, no coding standards, no best practices that we need to support. And in order to make our developers happy, we try to avoid boring tasks as much as possible. And was it in context of development itself, sometimes it's not possible because some projects are not that good as others. But you can automate something else. Each company has some internal processes, and first of all they need to be simple, so they do not take a lot of time. Then you can automate something if it's possible. Then you need to reduce all the administrative tasks and just make them simple, easy to do. So you need to do that, and that's it. You should not spend like entire day on doing some reporting. You need to should be fast. Then if you see that something takes too much time, try to automate it, try to make them simple, and then repeat. But you should not automate everything, because at some point some things could effort on automation could be 100 times more than just do it as it is. Example, in development I would say it's like migration in Drupal or on any other system. Sometimes it's much easier just to click some copy paste by hands than write a super complex logic of splitting one body field into 10 paragraphs. Sometimes if you have like small amount of content, just do it manually and forget about it. It's like that. The same applies to any processes. So at some point automation is not worth it. And Drupal. In order to make our Drupalers better and happier, we take three steps in this process. So we try to educate them about Drupal ecosystem, and we take part in local, regional, and global events, and also we try to organize events. So we think that taking part in Drupal projects is as important as doing a commercial work. We also educate everyone how Drupal ecosystem works. Basically, it was a very nice presentation early on about credits, contributions that covered basically the same that I'm talking now, but in much more details and with screenshots. So everyone should have an account on Drupal.org. It's actually easy to give back because doing patches and like fixing complex issues is very good, but not everyone can do it. But also, if you found a bug, just create an issue or add a command that it still reproduces. It's simple. It's not time consuming, but it helps after. If you can reproduce the issue, just write the steps to reproduce. If you have a patch, great. If you did a rare role because Drupal has a new version now and it does not apply anymore, just share it. It's the same for documentation and the same for translations. So it was very good points. So any contribution counts, and like you need to educate this to your team. So anything is important actually, and you should spread the word about this. We try to take part in a lot of events. Events are not like free of charge usually, but actually they're not that expensive. And for example, local events usually, because they are in the same country and the same price level applies, so it's usually not expensive if you live in the same company. Also, you can like meet new people, which is always exciting. Then try to make a presentation and share your experience. We organize this cafe event each month, which is a nice first step for a lot of developers because basically it's the same faces pretty much all the time, and you can use to them, and it's easy if you never done a presentation before with a public audience, and it's easy step to start. This also applies to any like meetup event, local event. Then developers should also be like open to ask and answer questions. Then the next step I see would be to go some regional and global events, because when you go to some other countries, you meet different people, different cultures, and I think you can learn from any culture in the world because you can find good things anywhere. For me personally, that any international or bigger events are very inspirational when you see like hundreds or couple like thousand people on DrupalCon. It's very you see that you're not the only one who doing it. Like a lot of human power and human capital also working on the same thing. Good. But also taking part in events gives the ability to promote your own yourself, your company, your country, build your own personal brand on this. And and when you think that those statements are true, you should encourage your colleagues, your friends to do the same, because Drupal is one thing, but like the React, Angular, like a lot of open source, WordPress, some technologies in not web technologies, there are a lot of open source tools around the globe, and I think Drupal is special because community is so strong, and so I think Drupalers can promote this community for other tech as well. And if you are participating, the next level will be try to organize an event. And organizing an event helps to develop soft skills. And soft skills are very important. For example, like in Ukraine, most of IT business works for foreign markets. So we like Western Europe, United States, Canada, like some Asia countries, Japan, and usually you need to talk with different cultures, different people, and soft skills are very important on this, because it's much easier to talk with people from your own country, because like you understand them just like by default usually. And not about like language, but about all that is not in language. And also, for example, we are in our company, we do not like hide developers from clients. Usually most of developers can work with the client like directly. So, and I think like for a lot of projects, communication is a key. So even if you're running into troubles with the implementation, timeline, budget, whatever, if it's communicated well, then yeah, project probably will be still successful. Maybe it will be not successful, like very big success, but it still be not a failure. And yeah, it also requires some soft skills, and you know, not I would say like not every developer likes this. So I think there are a lot of developers that like they just like want to code and not talk to people basically. So yeah, when you organize this, when you try to organize an event, it's, you know, you are stepping off your like comfort zone big time basically. Then you should build a local community around Drupal. And I guess those like events builds community, and better community attracts better developers. And I think we're talking here, and in Norway the situation is very similar to Ukraine. So there is a problem of attracting new people to Drupal as a technology, because there are like a lot of new tech, especially in, for example, JS world, that maybe feels more excited for young people, for like students. If there is a strong visible community, then it's easier to attract new blood to Drupal. And I think, as I said, the community creates visibility, and basically strong community also gives better projects. If you go, if you see that there are like a lot of developers in certain technology, then it's easier to pitch a project. It's easier to get a bigger project for your country. So for example, we have some big companies and that are not, you know, the structure is that, for example, the company is like 4,000 people in Ukraine. So they usually work with some like big partners, for example, in US or Europe, and they have a lot of those big projects like banking and usually it's also like Java or .NET. But for example, by organizing Drupal events, and like the DrupalCamp Kyiv, like our main camp in Ukraine, it's usually like around 400 people, so it's like big, I would say. And I think at some point this big player who is not focused on Drupal, they actually get a big project from their United States partners due to the fact that DrupalCamp in Ukraine is pretty big, so there are a lot of developers available, there are a lot of human power that can actually do it. So like investing in developing a community, like it did not happen tomorrow, but over the time it also gives you better chances to get something bigger on the market. And that was my last point.
So a question, and I'm gonna put it in the mic, so you don't have to repeat it. Did you ever share the questionnaire and the material on Google Docs?
No.
Are you going to?
No. Yeah, because if you share it, then like it will be, everyone can prepare beforehand and answer them perfectly. It's not the point of to have this questionnaire on the interview if everyone would know the answers. But questions are not crazy. It's we do some questions about like general software development, things about like Git, for example, about PHP, like languages, PHP, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, MySQL, like database knowledge, and then we go like to Drupal specifics. So we ask a couple questions of each category, and based on the answers, I decide whether to ask more complex question in that category, just go to a different category. You need to feel the candidate how it behaves, but also I think it should not be very pushy and very because it's a stress. Like I think interview is stressful for a lot of people, and they could on average answer not that good because of the stress. So it's very good if it's possible to create this like friendly and smooth atmosphere in the beginning, like maybe asking very simple questions so candidate is confident in their self, and then go to the questions you actually want to ask. Yeah.
About people management globally, do you have, or can you even share with us any details about how many people get there, and in terms of time, how fastly they get on board, like being productive in a project, and how fast they leave the company?
Yeah, so I will repeat the question is to share some statistics about like lead time for a developer, yeah.
Boarding time.
Like boarding time and average working time at our company. So about boarding time, it depends. So we have some examples of tomorrow basically. So if you hire like skilled developer, they can work like next week basically. But if it's like junior type of person, usually it's couple of weeks. But we try to give the real commercial task from the very beginning if it's possible. So yeah, if it's a new person, we also usually we assign a mentor internally who works with that person, and this mentor usually is responsible not only for like technical part, but for example, responsible for showing that person where to eat around and stuff like that. Everything that where like how to use office equipment, how coffee machine works, like so that person feels needed and knows what to do, and have a like contact point within the company with all the questions that you might have when you start a new job. And for like medium plus level developers, usually that boarding time is usually short if it's good, was a good choice for us. It's about how long they work. Like all that we do actually so we have a lot of people who work for a long time.
So the fluctuation is not so big. People arrive, but they stay.
People arrive, but they usually stay, and we convince them that we give that opportunity for growth. So, for example, we usually take 1 or 2 developers for some event each year, and company pays everything, like tickets, planes, accommodation, and some allowance. So it's a like nice bonus, I guess. Also, now as we organize this event, we promote us as a great place to work, I guess. Then we have this image on the market that some people, even for example, some people we usually ask the question about why you would like to work at Lemberg, and some say I want to work at Lemberg because I know that you are a great company. Yeah, but you need to work on this. This will not happen also in a year. So, and we try to be also fair on salaries and everything, and like transparent with the employees, so there are no hidden like fees or whatever, no fines for not doing well or whatever. So we were very clear on what you need to do, what will be the salary, and etc. And I don't know, it helps. Also, there are I call them like jumpers. There's a certain set of developers that just jump from one company to another for like extra 100 something like extra money, and usually this screening process filters them out. So like when you see the CV, you see that there are a lot of changing of place. We usually ask why, because it might be that some objective reasons for that, but in most cases it just like it will not work with us. So if you as I said, the market is there are much more demands than there are available developers, and some developers they just looking for money and they don't care pretty much. We try to avoid those, and I think we are more or less successful in that.
I was wondering about the one-to-one meetings that you are having. Do you have any advice for team leaders or employers to how to handle criticism against them if they're like the trusted person and then we're supposed to be open and all that, and they get the criticism? For example, if the employee feels bullied by them or something like that, how do they handle it?
The question is, do I have an advice how to handle criticism? No, I don't know actually. So, for example, me personally, I sometimes I could be pretty rough. So, but I think it's the people who knows me that they know that there's some people like could be upset what I'm saying to them, but I'm very I'm fair. So I could be rough and could say like not a very positive things, but also I say positive things when it happens, and people could be upset, but everyone knows that at some point then in a month or two they said, oh okay, thank you that you said that things to me, it helped me actually to become a better person. But you should be very you should be that balance, and you should use right words, and not with everyone this direct speech works actually. So it's I do not think that there is a recipe for every situation. You need to build trust, and then it will come naturally, I guess. I don't know. So this person who does those meetings, it cannot be like new employee. It cannot be a fresh employee. It should be someone who works for a long time and that has some internal respect in the company and trust in the company from both developers and from top management as well. So everyone, and that because even if there is some criticism, if the person is trusted, then that person also trusts that criticism as well and not very upset about it. But but should be balance of if you even it was some pretty bad things happened, you still should have this line of criticism as well. I think, but it's some kind of psychology. So I'm not in that field. So.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.